client for both panelists and attendees. I'd like to advise both panelists and attendees that when we have members of the public come in to speak and we're transferring them over to be a panelist, there may be a slight pause in the video feed and the flow of the meeting as we bring them in. So don't be alarmed if you experience a slight bit of lag while that's going on. So thank you to everybody attending today, and I'll hand it over to our chair, Councillor McKenzie, to provide the opening remarks.
Good morning. I'm Walter McKenzie, Mayor of West Perth and Chair of the Perth County Land Division Committee. I would like to thank all in attendance today. I'd like to call to order the June 29th, 2020 meeting of the Perth County Land Division Committee. This is a statutory public meeting pursuant to the Ontario Planning Act to deal with applications for consent. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding applications will be considered by the county's Land Division Committee. Those in attendance wishing to make comment concerning any of these applications will be given an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal the Land Division Committee's decision on any application must either make verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to the Land Division Committee prior to a decision being made. All committee members, staff, and applicants are attending this electronic hearing remotely. This hearing is being held remotely due to the COVID-19 pandemic and is being live streamed and recorded. Please be advised that public hearings form part of the public record, and the words, names, and images of those participating will be recorded and posted online. Before we proceed, I'd like to ask the Secretary Treasurer to confirm the attendance of the committee members by roll call.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Committee members, I will be reading your names out loud. When you hear your name, please unmute yourself and respond present. Councillor Rhonda Eggets.
Present.
Councillor James Aitchison.
Present.
Councillor Matt Duncan.
Present.
And Councillor Walter McKenzie.
Present.
And I have regrets today. Councillor Daryl Herlick will not be attending today's hearing.
Okay, before I outline the hearing format, I want to make a note that will be shown on the screen for those viewing at home is our remote hearing platform, whereby whoever is speaking will be shown predominantly, with smaller images of the members and staff attending along the edge of the screen. As we consider each application, it will take some time and there will be some extended pauses. So we ask for your patience as we navigate the new electronic hearing format. The agenda for the hearing has been posted online at perthcounty.ca. If you want to follow along, please feel free to access it now. I will remind all committee members, staff, and applicants participating in the hearing to please mute your microphones when not in use to reduce the feedback. I'd also like to share the hearing format we'll be using to navigate through each application. Each application will be called by the chair, followed by a report summary provided by planning staff. Applicants will be given an opportunity to add anything further to their application. If you are an applicant and have nothing further to add, then you can just simply say so. The committee will then be asked questions to the applicant or staff. After that, we will hear from members of the public who wish to comment on the application. Please note that all comments should be addressed through the chair. Please avoid repeating concerns already stated by others and focus on adding new information. Once all comments from the public have been heard, the applicant or staff will be given the opportunity to respond to comments. Finally, I will turn to the committee for a motion and deliberation, as well as a vote on the application. As this hearing is being held remotely, there are some procedural changes regarding how the committee will vote. The Secretary Treasurer will call each of the members' names and each member will respond if they are in favor or opposed to the motion. I will announce the results of the vote. So that concludes the format for how this meeting will go. We have called the meeting to order. I guess at this time I would ask for a confirmation of the agenda. And for this, we could just, if they just put their hand up, Sean, wouldn't that work? We have to confirm the agenda, right? Yeah.
We should do the call out.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll do a call out. Okay. All right. So a motion that we confirm the agenda is sent out, and we'll do that with a roll call then.
Okay. Member Aitchison,
I will move that.
Member Eggets,
I'll second it.
and I guess we have to do a roll call for votes on the motion. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So we'll take a roll call for votes in favor or in opposition to the motion. So I'll call just in order. Member Aitchison.
Yes.
Member Eggets.
Yes.
Member Duncan.
Yes.
All right. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? If so, declare it at this time. So noted that Sally has declared a conflict. Anybody else?
Okay. Sally, would you like to clarify the nature of the conflict?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I do have a conflict of interest on item 5.7. I'm a business partner of the applicant in a separate operation from the one that is the applicant here. But the operation that I do have ownership in also rents those lands. So I will be removing myself from the meeting for that particular hearing.
Thanks, Sally. All right, the first item is adoption of the previous minutes, and that goes back to March the 2nd. It's been a while since we've handled anything here. So at this time, I would ask for somebody to move and second the minutes, and then we will have the vote on them. So moved by
I'll move it.
Jim, seconded by Rhonda. Thank you. And then
Okay. No.
I'll let Dave take the vote.
Okay. Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Good. All right, the first application this morning is application 5.1 is application number B70, and it's an application for consent to Sever by Timmerman Farms Limited. David,
Okay.
I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair McKenzie. I'd like to make known that we have members of the public present as attendees. Mr. Doug Rayom is agent on this application, is in attendance, as well as Mr. Tom Dom as well. So we'll be bringing them in at this point as panelists for this application. So the application for consent, file number B7019 by Timmerman's Farms Limited, concerns property described as part lot 15, concession 2 in the Ellis Ward, being part 1 on plan 44R2401, Township of Perth East, located at 4129 Road 130. The owner of the farm operation has applied to sever a dwelling deemed surplus to the needs of a consolidated farm operation. It is proposed that the retained farmland be purchased by the consolidating farm operation should the severance application be approved. The proposed severed lot in this case would be rectangular in shape and located adjacent to Road 130 with frontage of approximately 270 feet and a depth of approximately 152 feet. The area of the lot proposed to be severed in this case is 0.4 hectares or 0.99 acres, leaving approximately 31.2 hectares or 77.1 acres of retained farmland. The proposed severed lot contains a single detached dwelling as well as a detached shed. The proposed retained lot contains farmland a shed, a barn, a silo, and four greenhouses. 3 of the greenhouses are proposed to be removed, while one is proposed to be relocated further to a new location on the retained farm parcel. Decisions on consent to sever applications must be consistent with both the PPS and the County of Perth official plan. Section 5631 of the County of Perth official plan provides criteria and requirements that the county has deemed necessary for the severance of dwellings rendered surplus as a result of farm consolidation. Planning staff have reviewed the application with respect to section 5631 and have the following comments. The intended buyer of the proposed retained lot has demonstrated that they own another farm property within Perth County containing a dwelling, and therefore we're able to declare the subject property, the dwelling on the subject property surplus as a result. There is a barn located on the proposed retained farm parcel. The close proximity of the barn to the proposed lot would not be able to meet MDS requirements. The barn does not currently house livestock and is proposed to be used for storage. A change of use permit would be required in this case, and an appropriate condition of consent has been recommended to that effect. 2006 air photo of the subject property shows that the dwelling existed at that time and that the dwelling is currently inhabited. The area of land to be severed being approximately 0.99 acres, containing the dwelling and a detached shed, being in close proximity to one another, and a driveway which accesses this cluster to Road 130, has been deemed to satisfy the requirement that the lot is of minimum size required to accommodate the residential use and appropriate water and sewage services. Of note to this application, the retained farm parcel is proposed to contain 1 remaining greenhouse. There is a horticulture component to the farm operation, and the remaining greenhouse is proposed to be used for starter plants. A reduction from 4 to 1 greenhouses is a significant reduction in the intensity of this agricultural use. Given the proximity to the proposed severed lot, reducing the intensity and potential for conflict with the non-farm residential use is warranted. A condition reflecting the removal of 3 of the greenhouses is proposed, with the remaining greenhouse currently located such that it crosses the proposed property line into the severed portion. It is also proposed as a condition of severance that the remaining greenhouse be moved completely onto the retained portion and comply with all applicable zoning provisions. Of note also, an earthen lagoon associated with greenhouse production is located on the retained lands. The applicant has proposed to decommission the lagoon in future and potentially use the barn as fill material. The storage is an agricultural use, and it isn't a requirement of the consent that it be decommissioned. If the storage no longer serves the operation, then it is prudent that it be decommissioned in accordance with guidance from Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. At the time that the application was made, a restrictive severance agreement was in effect with regard to the subject property. The intent of this agreement was to prevent further fragmentation of the farm parcel in response to a previous consent application, being application B27 1990. The agreement was put in place prior to the County of Perth permitting, through its official plan policies, severance of dwellings rendered surplus to farm operation. Of note to the committee, the agreement has since been removed through approval of the Township of Perth East and is no longer in effect, thus providing opportunity for the proposed severance to be considered at this time. To summarize the comments that have been received to date, as of the writing of our report, Township of Perth East responded on March 17th, 2020, that the application be approved subject to the 7 conditions that were outlined in the staff report dated March 17th, 2020. And on February 27th, 2020, the County of Perth received correspondence from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. The Upper Thames River Conservation Authority advises that they have no objection to the application for consent. That is the balance of the comments that we received for application B7019. County of Perth Planning is recommending to Land Division Committee that the application for consent be approved, subject to the 12 conditions that are summarized in our report. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that members of the committee may have regarding the application.
Thank you, David. At this time, I'll ask if the agents for the applicant have anything further to add.
I have nothing further to add.
Okay. All right.
We have Mr. Don.
Mr. Dom? He's unmuted. Anything further? Can you hear us? Okay, we'll carry on.
I just want to clarify, we heard Mr. Rayom.
Oh,
Okay, we see Mr. Dom
He's got-
on
he's-
video. Is
He's muted.
Mr. Dom, do you have anything to add at all?
There, he can talk now. Nothing? Okay, we'll carry on, I guess. Okay, seeing no further, any further comments with regards to this application, are there any questions from committee members? I see everybody kind of nodding their head, so no further questions. If there is nothing further, then at this time I would look for a motion to endorse the recommendation from staff. Yeah, just click your screen. If we get a green screen, I'll take that as the mover and the seconder, and then we'll do a roll call for the vote. Jim moves. Do we have a seconder for that? I've lost Rhonda. Oh, Rhonda's in.
Is Rhonda disconnected?
I will second that.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Thank you very much. We wait for, well, we can't do a roll call if Rhonda's not there, right?
We're missing quorum.
We're missing quorum until Rhonda gets reconnected here, so we just have to wait a second, I guess.
She dropped out.
Technical glitches.
Rhonda just texted me. She said she got kicked out of the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we call it?
She can rejoin.
Yeah.
Yeah, apologies, everybody. We had one of our members drop off. We're just waiting for her to rejoin.
Jim's like a dog now. If Jim is talking now, can we put her on Jim's speakerphone and do it that way until she gets reconnected?
She can give a call.
She-
We're on.
We're muted.
Jim, have you got an update on Rhonda? Were you just talking to her by any chance?
No, that was another phone call. Imagine
Okay,
that.
all right.
We actually have quorum though with you, right?
Oh, here she is. We're back. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. Okay, just as a quick recap, Rhonda, it's been moved and seconded, and we're just in the process of doing a vote. So I'm going to ask Dave to do the roll call for a vote on this application.
Okay, Member Aitchison, what say you?
Yes.
Member Duncan, what say you?
Yes.
And Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so the results of the vote then is that it is carried. Thank you. Okay, Land Division Committee's decision are subject to an appeal by the local planning appeal tribunal in accordance with the provisions under the Planning Act. County staff have 15 days in which to issue notice of committee's decision with a 20-day appeal period following the date of issuance of the notice. If no appeals are received during the 20-day period, then the committee's decision is final. Thank you for attending, and you may leave if you wish to continue to observe the meeting. Or you may wish to stay and watch the rest of the meeting. So thank you very much, and we'll move on to the next application. Application 5.2 is an application for consent to sever number B72 by the Optimist Club of Shakespeare. And I believe Murray McTavish is here as spokesman for the Optimist Club. And I will turn it over to Dave. There, see Murray's name there. So we'll turn it over to Dave to do the report.
Okay, thank you, Chair McKenzie. Following application for consent B7219 by the Optimist Club of Shakespeare concerns property described as part of Wellington Street, Plan 333, Southeast Hope Ward, being Part 10 on Plan 44R 4030 in the township of Perth East. The owner of the subject property, Optimist Club of Shakespeare, has proposed a severance application at the noted location, intending to add the proposed severed portion of the property to the abutting lands and convey the abutting lands to a new owner for the purpose of consolidating land for future residential development in the town of Shakespeare. The realignment of the subject property boundary and subsequent transfer of ownership would contribute to the creation of a contiguous C-shaped parcel surrounding the westerly end of William Shakespeare Street. Consent application B0520 is related to this application for consent B7219, and that the purpose of both applications is to provide additional lands to the potential residential development previously referred to. A proposed draft plan of subdivision is expected to follow should applications B7219 and B520 be granted provisional approval by the Land Division Committee. The subject property is found on Schedule A of the County of Perth official plan as a serviced urban area within the village of Shakespeare. The detailed mapping for this area is located on Schedule A6-2 of the County of Perth official plan, showing the subject property designated as institutional recreational. Reading from our staff comments, there are multiple land holdings of the Optimist Club of Shakespeare in the vicinity of the subject property. The lot fabric is a mix of full lots and a registered plan of subdivision, as well as parts of streets that were previously closed and conveyed by the township and some part lots. Some of the holdings belonging to the Optimist Club are consolidated in the Ontario Land Registry Office, but there has been no force or necessity to consolidate the holdings under one PIN. The proposed retained lands that would result from application B7219 constitute a portion of the parkland that has been developed into a public recreational park by the Optimist Club. The proposed severed lands are currently undeveloped, and if the application is approved, would provide a straight east-west boundary at the northern edge of the club's holdings. The lot addition for the abutting property owner facilitates the intention to develop a residential subdivision surrounding the stub of William Shakespeare Street. If the severed portion of the subject property was not merged with the future development lands, there would be a gap between the development and the existing residential uses to the east on William Shakespeare Street that has approximately 10.48 meters of frontage. The applicable minimum lot frontage in the R2 zone in this case is 15 meters. The severed portion is not efficiently developable for residential uses as a standalone parcel or by remaining attached to the parkland. The severed lands could potentially be used for pedestrian access to the parklands from William Shakespeare Street, although the parcel is 3 times wider than most walkway blocks in new subdivision. The addition of the severed lands to the abutting lands for future development does not preclude a pedestrian access to the park from being located somewhere within the future development lands. The surrounding land uses include residential and parkland, both of which are considered to be compatible with residential uses permitted in the R2 zone. Consolidation of contiguous parcels and the potential for new residential development in close proximity to public parkland is a desirable opportunity for the village of Shakespeare. The resulting consolidation of lands for development promotes the efficient use of lands within the settlement area and therefore potential for efficient use of municipal services, including public sanitary water, storm drains, and roads. All of these being consistent with the PPS. The County of Perth official plan prescribes conditions for the permission of lot enlargements in accordance with section 6558. The lot addition proposed by application B72 complies with the statements under this section of the plan in the following ways. The lot is proposed to be used in accordance with the official plan. With this plan, an official plan amendment will be necessary to facilitate residential development and align with the current residential zone on the property. It is of a size and location where residential development is desirable, serviceable, and compatible with surrounding land uses. The severed land is within the limits of the village. The area to be severed is minimal in size relative to the holdings of the Optimist Club and surplus to the needs of the existing parkland use. The lot enlargement of the abutting land closes a gap of undeveloped lands between the existing residential development to the east and the proposed residential development to the west and north. The proposed severed land is within the R2 zone, matching the lands that it is proposed to be merged with. And as a condition of consent, if approved, would be confirmation of the merger of the severed lands with the abutting lands and confirmation of consolidation under one PIN with the Ontario Land Registry Office. Notice of public meeting was given in accordance with the Planning Act, as well as posting to the County of Perth website on June 5th, 2020. As of the writing of our report, I'll summarize the comments received to date. We received correspondence from the Township of Perth East on March 3rd, 2020, recommending that the application for consent be approved, subject to the 7 conditions that were outlined in our report to local council on March 3rd, 2020. That is the balance of the comments that we received. At the present time, the County of Perth Planning Department is recommending that the application for consent B7219 be approved, subject to the 10 conditions as outlined in our report. And staff would be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, thank you, David. Murray, do you have anything further to add at this time?
No, I'm fine with David's report. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any questions from any of the committee members? We're good? Okay. At this time then, and there's no other people online to comment. So, okay, at this time then, I would entertain a motion from one of the committee members and a seconder as well. So moved by Rhonda, thank you, and seconded by Matt, thank you. Okay, and I'll ask Dave to do the roll call then for the vote.
Okay. Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so that vote is carried. So thank you very much. Land Division Committee's decision are subject to an appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. County staff have 15 days in which to issue notice of the committee's decision, with a 20-day appeal period following from the date of issuance of the notice. If no appeals are received during the 20-day period, then the committee's decision is final. Thank you for attending. You may leave if you wish to continue to observe the meeting. You're more than welcome, Murray. Thank you for your information.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on then. The next application is application for consent to sever B number 04 by Charles Dunphy on behalf of Margaret Ralston. And do we have them here? There's Charles. Yep, we're good. Okay, I will ask Dave then to give us the staff report.
Okay, thank you, Chair Mackenzie. Following application, being application B420, has been submitted to the County of Perth by Mr. Charles Dunphy on behalf of owner Margaret Ralston. Following application for consent concerns property described as part of Lot 2, Registrar's Consolidated Plan 453 being parts 1, 2, and 3 on Plan 44R 1028 in the Downey ward of the Township of Perth South. Subject property has a municipal address of 3224 Road 122 in the village or hamlet of St. Paul's. The owner of the subject property has applied for consent to sever a vacant residential lot in the hamlet of St. Paul's. The proposed severed lot in this case would be an interior lot having frontage of approximately 32.91 meters along Road 122 and would have an area of approximately 2,245 square meters or 11,495 square feet. The parcel is currently vacant, containing no buildings or structures as per the report photo shown in Schedule A to our report. The proposed retained lot in this case would also be an interior lot having frontage of approximately 39.1 meters along Road 122 and would have an area of approximately 2,245 square meters, 11,495 square feet, being exactly the same as the proposed severed lot. And the parcel, the retained parcel in this case is also vacant, containing no buildings or structures. Reading from our staff comments, Section 6551 of the County of Perth official plan regarding new lot creation and hamlet designations details that such lot creation should constitute infilling or the logical orderly expansion of the existing built-up area to fill out existing designated areas. Infilling in the context of the official plan is defined as development of a proposed single use between two existing uses that front onto the same side of the public street. The proposed severance in this case fits the official plan descriptions of infilling and logical orderly expansion of existing built-up area within the hamlet designation. Section 6552 of the official plan states that frontage, depth, and size of all lots proposed to be created within the hamlet designation must be appropriate for the proposed use and should, where feasible, be consistent with lots in the immediate area. In this case, the lots have been found to be consistent with lots in the immediate area, and also meeting the minimum requirements for lot size for single detached dwellings within the hamlet village residential zone. Therefore, the proposed lots are consistent with local zoning requirements. Particular note to the application, as the subject property is located adjacent to an active railway corridor, being the Guelph subdivision. The County Planning Office requested that the owner submit a professional noise and vibration study to address sound level criteria for noise sensitive developments as per Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks publication NPC 300, as well as applicable criteria with regard to ground vibration. The professional noise and vibration study that the county received, completed by SLR Consulting Canada Limited, concluded that land use incompatibilities between potential future residential development on the subject property and the adjacent rail corridor would exist with regard to noise and that to mitigate these incompatibilities, that noise warning clauses as per Ministry of Environment requirements be required, as well as provision for central air conditioning. Summary of these requirements has been provided as per Schedule C to our report. As well, a recommended condition of consent has been included to address the impacts related to noise generation upon future sensitive residential uses from the adjacent railway corridor. The study has also identified vibration impacts that could occur. The suggested mitigating measures with respect to vibration would be more appropriately addressed through a future building permit application under the Ontario Building Code, and therefore no associated recommended condition of consent has been provided with respect to vibration. A full copy of the noise and vibration study has been provided to the Township of Perth South for future reference with regard to future building activity. With regard to servicing for the proposed uses, the hamlet of St. Paul's contains partial municipal services in the form of a municipal well. Sewage services are provided by private septic beds for individual residential properties in this area. Given the presence of the municipal well and absence of municipal sewer services, any future development on the proposed severed and retained lots would have to proceed under partial services. Section 1665B of the provincial policy statement does permit such partial services in settlement areas for infill development where site conditions are suitable for long-term provision of such services with no negative impacts. Paraphrasing the PPS defines negative impacts as degradation to the quality and quantity of water, sensitive groundwater features, and their related hydrologic functions due to single, multiple, or successive development. With regard to this section of the PPS, attached to our report are copies of the Township of Perth South bylaw 40-2002, being a bylaw to regulate the supply of water from municipal waterworks servicing the hamlet of St. Paul's, and the 2019 Clean Water Agency annual summary report for the St. Paul's water supply system as per Schedules D and E to our report. Schedule B of the bylaw confirms that the subject property has been accounted for in the list of serviced lots for the existing water distribution system. The 2019 Ontario Clean Water Agency summary report has confirmed that the rated capacity of the St. Paul's water system was not exceeded during the most recently completed annual reporting period. The single day maximum draw recorded in 2019 was approximately 14.7% of rated capacity. Given that the existing water supply system for St. Paul's has been designed to account for servicing a greater number of lots within the vicinity than otherwise is currently present, and that the peak single day annual consumption recorded for the existing system was found to be far below rated capacity. In the absence of more detailed technical study, it is reasonable to interpret that no negative impact should occur upon the existing water supply system should future residential development be allowed to occur on the proposed severed and retained lots as per existing permissions in the local zoning bylaw. As the subject property does not currently have a municipal address, for reasons of public safety, wayfinding, and consistency with neighboring properties, the planning department has included a recommended condition of consent that a new municipal address be assigned to each of the severed and retained lots. The proposed application for consent to sever has been found to be consistent with the PPS and in general conformity with the County of Perth official plan. Notice of public meeting was given in accordance with the Planning Act, as well as posting to the County of Perth website on June 5th, 2020 for application BO420. As of the writing of this report, the following responses have been received. Response received by the county office on March 19th, 2020 from the Township of Perth South. Township of Perth South Council has recommended that the application be approved, subject to 5 conditions that were detailed in the staff report to local council on March 17th, 2020. On backtracking a little bit here, on March 13th, 2020, Bell Canada responded expressing that they have no concerns with the proposed application for consent. Backtracking a little bit more, we received comment from Hydro One Networks on March 12th, 2020 rather, stating that Hydro One has no concerns with the application at this time. And lastly, most recently on June 23rd, in response to our recirculation for the remote public meeting, the County Planning Office did receive comment from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, stating that they have no objection to the application for consent. That is the balance of the comments that we received. The County Planning Office is recommending to the Land Division Committee that the application for consent be approved, subject to the 8 conditions that are detailed in our report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that committee may have.
Okay, thank you, David. Mr. Dunphy, do you have anything further to add on behalf of the applicants?
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, then I'm looking for somebody to make a motion and somebody to second the recommendation from county staff. So moved by Jim, seconded by
Yes.
Councilor Duncan. Matt? Okay, Dave, I'll let you do the roll call for the vote then.
Okay, thank you, Chair McKenzie. Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that motion is carried. The Land Division Committee's decision are subject to an appeal by the local planning appeal tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. County staff have 15 days in which to issue notice of committee's decision, with a 20-day appeal period following from the date of issuance of the notice. If no appeals are received during the 20-day period, then the committee's decision is final. Thank you for attending. You may leave if you wish to continue to observe the meeting as well. Thank you. That's it. Okay, moving on. The next application is for consent to sever B5 of 2020 by Kevin and Catherine Jones, care of Brian Wilhelm.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Following application B0520 concerns property described as part of Lot 22, Concession 1, Southeast Hope Ward in the Township of Perth East, with having frontage along line 34 with municipal address of 2241 line 34 in the village of Shakespeare. The owners of the subject property intend to have applied for consent to sever a portion of their property to be conveyed to the abutting landowner for the purpose of consolidating land for future residential development. The realignment of the subject property boundary and subsequent transfer of ownership would contribute to the creation of contiguous C-shaped parcel surrounding the westerly end of William Shakespeare Street. As previously mentioned, application B520 is related to application B7219 by the Optimist Club of Shakespeare, and that the purpose of both applications is to provide additional lands to the potential residential development referred to above. A proposed draft plan of subdivision is expected to follow from this application should both application B7219 and B520 be granted conditional approval by the Land Division Committee. Reading from our staff comments, the removal of the severed lands would leave the retained lands with the lot area in excess of 1,000 square meters and the minimum lot area for the existing zone, C1 zone being 200 square meters. The rear yard in this case is also sufficient to meet the zone provisions of the C1 and the R2 zones. The abutting lot to be enlarged is zoned R2 and currently estimated to be approximately 20 meters deep. The severed lands would be added to the rear lot line, therefore extending the depth of the parcel to just over 40 meters. The R2 zone requires a front and rear yard setback of 7.5 meters each for a combination of 15 meters. On the current 20-meter depth of the abutting lands, this leaves only 5 meters for a building in the middle of the parcel, which is insufficient for the housing types permitted in the R2 zone. The addition of the severed lands to the abutting lands make the abutting lands significantly more suitable for residential development. The lot addition for the abutting property owner facilitates the intention to develop the noted residential subdivision surrounding the stub of William Shakespeare Street. The land uses surrounding the severed portion and the abutting lands to which they are to be added include residential and parkland, both of which are considered to be compatible with the residential uses permitted in the R2 zone. Consolidation of contiguous parcels and the potential for new residential development in close proximity to public parkland is a desirable opportunity for the community of Shakespeare. We have, in summary of our review, we have found that the subject application meets the lot enlargement criteria contained under section 6558 of the County of Perth official plan. County staff are recommending approval of the application subject to the 10 conditions that are detailed in our planning report. Notice of the public meeting was given in accordance with the Planning Act, as well as posting to the County of Perth website on June 5th, 2020. As of the writing of our report, we had received correspondence from the Township of Perth East dated March 3rd, 2020, with the Township of Perth East Council recommending that the application be approved subject to 7 conditions that were outlined in our staff report dated March 3rd, 2020. Since the writing of our report, the County Planning Office is in receipt of 3 pieces of correspondence, and I will read these in chronological order for the committee's information. The first piece of correspondence received June 23rd, 2020 from Hydro One Networks. Hydro One Networks has responded indicating that they have no concern with the application at the present time. Second piece of correspondence, also dated June 23rd, 2020, comes to us from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. The Upper Thames River Conservation Authority has expressed that they have no objection to the application for consent, BO 520. And lastly, the county office received on June 24th, 2020, a piece of correspondence from Bell Canada, which was shared with members of the committee late last week. I'll just attempt to summarize the statements made that Bell Canada has provided for the committee. Thank you for your correspondence dated June 5th, 2020. Subsequent to review by our local engineering department, Bell Canada has identified that we require protection for existing facilities. Bell Canada has indicated that they have a buried telecommunication line which crosses in the vicinity of the proposed boundary between what would be the severed and retained portions of the property. Bell has expressed concern with their ability to access their equipment, particularly in the event of an interruption or emergency that would require them to restore services for regular telephone line, alarm service, internet access, and most importantly, ensuring continuity of 911 service. Subsequent to this response, Bell Canada has requested a 3-meter wide strip to measure 1.5 meters on either side of the buried facilities, as can be reasonably accommodated within the subject property boundaries in regards to the buried transmission facilities. Bell Canada is requesting an easement over this portion of the subject property to protect the integrity of the existing facilities and to preserve their services. They are requesting that the cost associated with registration of said easement be the responsibility of the landowner. That is the summary of the comments that we have received from agencies, and in responding to the comments that were received from Bell Canada on June 24th, we did receive a response dated June 26th, 2020 from Mr. Brian Wilhelm, who is associated with the application for consent BO 520. Mr. Wilhelm writes, I am writing in response to the noted letter you received from Bell Canada in regard to application B520. At this point, I am asking you not to grant an easement to Bell Canada as they have requested for the following reasons. Number 1, the original meeting for this application was close to the end of March, and Bell Canada did not provide any response at that time for that meeting. The response for this meeting is also relatively late and does not provide enough time to comment. We need to know the exact location to make an informed decision on how it affects both properties. Locates were ordered this morning. Number 2, when I called Bell Canada, they responded saying they could not specify exactly what was in the ground or why there was no easement in place in the first place. Number 3, I have had MTE confirm Bell has no easement across these properties. And number 4, the line in question has to be moved anyways, as it looks as though it directly impedes the future development, and as such, the easement would be irrelevant. Lastly, if this easement is granted, we ask that all and any costs associated with this be borne by Bell Canada, as they have failed in the past to register any easement across these lands when opportunities presented themselves. Regards, Mr. Brian Wilhelm. That is the summary of all the comments that we have received with respect to this application. Again, county staff, we are recommending approval of the application subject to the conditions that are detailed in our report, of which there are 10 conditions. County staff, in response to the comments received from Bell Canada, we do feel that Bell Canada has made an appropriate request in this case. It should be noted that they are requesting an easement purely across the subject property and only the subject property, and that the easement would not apply beyond those boundaries. So for committee's consideration, we would recommend that an 11th condition be considered to be added, such that an easement be granted in favor of Bell Canada for access and maintenance, access to and maintenance of the telecommunication line as per their requirements, but that this easement would only apply within the boundaries of the subject property. We feel that this would satisfy the concerns of Bell Canada and subsequently also satisfy the concerns of Mr. Wilhelm as expressed in his letter, as this easement would not affect potential development of lands to the east should it be applied to the subject property as per the statements provided by Bell Canada. So thank you, members, and I'll hand it over to the chair.
Okay, thank you, David. All right, Mr. Wilhelm, any further comments at this time?
I have no further comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Doug, he's affiliated with this one as well, or is he just listening?
He is, yes. Doug is on this one.
Any other comments from anybody else in attendance here this morning? And I'm kind of looking at Doug, but I don't see him right now. Any further comments? No, good. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. At this time, then, I would entertain a motion from committee members that we approve the severance with the 11 conditions that county staff have put on that. So do we have a mover?
Can I ask a question first, Walter?
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Jim.
Any idea where this telephone line goes across there at all?
Through the chair, to answer your question, Member Aitchison, the line runs, so when you look at the report photo that's up on the screen currently,
Yep.
Where the red and yellow rectangles touch each other, the map that Bell Canada provided us with their comments, which I shared with members of the committee late last week, the line crosses, it runs parallel with that, what would be that boundary between the severed and retained.
Okay.
So it runs essentially right at that property line. I believe the way that Bell indicated it, it's slightly more onto the red rectangle, which is the retained lot, versus the severed lot to the south. But the width of the easement that they're asking for, being 3 meters wide or 1.5 meters to either side of that line, would have to apply to both the severed and retained portions. But the presence of that easement, in our opinion, would not impede any future development, or should not impede any future development given its location on the property.
Okay.
Any other questions? Rhonda?
So what good is this easement if it's only on that property and not on any of the other properties that surround it?
Through the chair for member Eggets, at this present time, the planning office, we've not been able to confirm whether Bell has easement for their line on the adjacent properties. Given the timing of when we received these comments and our limited access to the land registry office at the present time, we weren't able to confirm that. However, Bell Canada, with respect to the application, they only have rights to ask for an easement in this case across the subject property that we're considering today. I can't confirm whether they have easement across the remainder of their line or not, but they are purely concerned with providing legal coverage for the transmission line within the boundaries of the subject property.
So the other question I guess I have too is if we allow this, who's paying for it? If we put a condition on here, then the applicant will have to pay for it. Is that correct?
Through the chair, member Eggets, Bell Canada has requested that be the case, that the owner bear the cost for registration of the easement. How much additional cost that would be, I can't say, but given that they're going through the process of severing the land, it would be captured, should the additional condition be approved, it would be captured as part of the process. And in my opinion, I can't see there being great additional cost incurred here, given that a new reference plan would have to be created anyway and new registration documents created. So in my experience and in my opinion, the cost would be quite minimal with respect to the cost of the action that the owners are taking to sever their land at the present time. But Bell has requested that any additional costs be borne by and the responsibility of the owner.
So in the past, has it always been the owner who's paid for these easements, or has it been the utility companies?
Through a chair, member Eggets, this is actually the first time that I personally have seen an agency such as Bell request an easement of this nature across private land. Typically, easements that we've created through as a response to applications for consent have typically been planned as part of those consents. This is arguably an unplanned addition that an agency has requested. So I can't, I guess, properly answer your question based on past history. This is a little bit of new territory, at least for me personally. So.
Sally, would you like to add anything further to this in your experience?
I'm similar to David. Having this come up like after and not be identified before is new territory. But it sort of sounds like, and I would like, it sounds like Doug looked into this a little bit, and I wonder if he has some insight as to that we don't have or haven't heard. But it sounds like there always should have been an easement and there just wasn't. It hasn't been completed or captured. And as David says, they're only really allowed at this point to ask for the subject property to be affected. So if they're intending to correct this, the fact that their easement doesn't exist, then they're going to have to take measures on either side perhaps as well. And that I think that there's going to have to be a lot of discussion about this easement extending past the subject property because of the way that it will interfere with development of those lands to the east. So as far as the subject property is concerned, it's going to be a property boundary. The infrastructure exists, and to have that easement in place makes sense on the ground for that section of the rear yard and the side yard of those, the retained land and the severed land. But with respect to costs, I don't think that should be necessarily part of the condition.
Thanks, Sally. Doug, do you have anything further to add?
I myself was not involved in this project, so I cannot comment at this time.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I know, Matt, you had a question as well.
Rhonda kind of asked my questions. I'm kind of wondering about this whole easement deal myself. If this line runs through the rest of these lands, it's going to be affected by the development. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to give an easement on a short chunk of property when the whole line needs to be looked at.
Okay, point taken. Rhonda, another question?
Well, not a question, just kind of following up what Matt said. I'm wondering if it would be better to defer this and let them look into this a little bit more, because it threw this at us at the last minute. I have trouble too granting an easement for a short piece of property when we don't know what's going on either side, or where this cable even goes, or what's going on. So I'm just wondering if we should defer it and let the landowners look into it a little bit more. Like, I have trouble too saying that someone has to pay for this when it came to us at the last minute as well. Like, if the applicant wants Bell to pay, Bell wants the applicant to pay. They want us to pick. I'm not comfortable picking.
Okay, thanks, Rhonda. That certainly is an option that we can do, I guess, and have it come back at our meeting in July and deal with it at that time. And it would maybe resolve a few things that we're not quite sure of at this stage of the game. Any other, Jim, question?
Comment. I kind of agree with Matt and Rhonda on this. Like, this is kind of last second, and further to Matt's comment, this is going further east, I'm assuming, because we don't really know where it's coming from, but if it's on that property line, it's in the middle of no man's land there. So you got issues with that on either side of the properties. Something's going to have to get changed. I'd rather let those people look at it now before we grant a right away there or whatever, because there's going to have to be more done than just on that property line.
Okay. Point taken. All right. Any other questions at this time? Okay, then at this point, I'm open for a motion from committee members. Rhonda, I'll let you say what your motion is.
Okay, I'd like to move that we defer to our next meeting.
Okay, which is July 27th, I believe. So, okay, moved by Rhonda. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Matt. Thank you. Any further discussion from committee members? All right, I will ask David to take the vote then at this time.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so the results are that this particular recommendation will be deferred until the July 27th meeting for further information to be available at that time. So thank you very much. Yeah, we really don't need to read the land division commitment at this time, because there's been no decision made at this particular time. So I want to thank Doug and Brian for attending, and further information will have to be gathered for our next meeting to make a final decision on the severance. So thank you very much. Okay, moving on then. Next application is an application for consent to sever B6 2020 by BBG Acres Limited, and B7 by P&M Banatan Incorporated. And I will turn it over to Dave for his comments.
Thank you, Chair. For members of the committee, following applications for consent to sever B0620 and B0720 concern property located at Lot 14 and Lot 15, Concession 3 of the Ellis Ward of Township of Perth East. We have a combined report for these applications as these applications concern a proposed agricultural land swap for adjacent subject properties. So the applications in this case are proposing to, sorry, I just gotta get my, I got my pages mixed up here. Okay, there we go. Okay. So the proposal that's been put forth here by the adjacent landowners is such that each subject property would have approximately 4.02 hectares severed and transferred to the adjacent neighboring property. Neither subject property in this case would be reduced in size should the consents be approved. The consents would not result in would result in the property boundary becoming a straight line, thus allowing for reconfiguration of field boundaries and associated cropping to allow for straighter patterns for agricultural use, which would be a desirable outcome. The use of both parcels is currently for agricultural purposes and would not be unchanged should the consents be approved. Lot adjustments are permitted by the PPS for legal or technical reasons. Included in this definition under the PPS for legal or technical are minor boundary adjustments. Given that the uses and the parcel sizes resulting from the consents are essentially unchanged from the pre-severance state, or would be unchanged from the pre-severance state, the boundary adjustment would be considered minor and therefore is consistent with the provincial policy statement. In the County of Perth, Official Plan Amendment number 47 added text to the agriculture consent policies that consents may be granted which have the effect of switching one parcel for another, provided that the swapped portions are comparable in terms of size, characteristic, and agricultural capability. This is true with respect to these proposed consents. The severed portions are equal in size and character, and the soil, as well as the soil classifications, being exactly the same. The two consents are therefore consistent with the policies of the County of Perth official plan and as well as the PPS. Notice of public meeting was given in accordance with the Planning Act as well as posting to the County of Perth website on June 5th, 2020. As of the writing of this report, the following responses have been received. Comment received on March 17th, 2020 from the Township of Perth East. Township of Perth East Council has recommended that the applications be approved, subject to the 7 conditions that were detailed for each in the staff report dated March 17th, 2020. And subsequent to the publication of our report, the County of Perth has received comments with respect to the applications. Comment received June 23rd, 2020 from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. Upper Thames River Conservation Authority has no objection to the applications for consent. And similarly, on June 24th, 2020, Bell Canada responded citing no concerns with respect to applications B06 and B0720. The County Planning Department is recommending to Land Division Committee that the applications be approved, each subsequent to the conditions detailed in our reports. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Okay, thank you, David. So is Doug an agent for them? Doug is nodding yes. Do you have
Yes,
anything?
he is.
Thank
Yes,
you, Doug. Anything further to add at this time?
No, I think the report sums up what our clients are doing and just trying to straighten that line for just more efficient agricultural use.
Right, okay, thank you, thank you. Any questions from any of the committee members? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion then that we accept the staff's report with the 10 conditions that were stipulated in that report. So mover and
We had a separate motion for each.
oh, we have to have, so we have 2 motions. Then.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we'll deal with the first one. Gotta go back here and get the application number. So we'll deal with application B7. B06, sorry, yep, B06 by BBG Acres Limited. So I'll move her and second her for that one. Rhonda and Matt, thank you. and with the 10 conditions. So I will turn it over to David to take the vote.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Agates, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I can read this at the end, couldn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll deal with application B07 by P&M Benignatin Inc. And motion to accept that. So Jim moves, Rhonda seconds, and I'll ask David for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Agates, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so that motion is carried. Both severances have been approved. The Land Division Committee's decision are subject to an appeal by the local planning and appeal tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. County staff have 15 days in which to issue notice of committee's decision for the 20-day appeal period following the date of the issuance of the notice. If no appeals are received during the 20-day period, then the committee's decision is final. I want to thank you for attending, and you may leave if you wish, or you can continue to observe the meeting. So thank you very much. The next application then is application for consent to sever B09 2020 by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of Zeta Group Incorporated. And David, I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Following application for consent to sever, application B0920 concerns property described as part of lots 129 and 130 on Plan 168 in the listable ward of the municipality of North Perth. Municipal address for the subject property is 490 Wellington Avenue South in the town of Listowel. The owners of the subject property have applied for consent to sever a new lot for residential development within the Listowel ward. Each lot, both severed and retained, would contain one unit of a semi-detached dwelling, as illustrated on schedules B and C of our report. The proposed severed lot in this case would be an interior lot having approximately 7.04 meters of frontage along Wellington Avenue South and a lot area of approximately 211.1 square meters or 2,272 square feet. The proposed retained lot would be a corner lot having a frontage of approximately 10.64 meters along Wellington Avenue South and would have a corresponding lot area of approximately 309.5 meters or 3,331 square feet. The proposed severed and retained lots are both within the serviced urban area designation of the County of Perth official plan. Permitted uses within the serviced urban area designation include a broad range of land uses, including residential uses. Section 16.3.2.4 of the County of Perth official plan states that the lot frontage, depth, and size of any lot created by consent, both severed and retained, must be appropriate for the use of the lot and consistent where possible with adjacent lots. While this section also states that all lots created by consent must meet the minimum lot area and lot frontage requirement as set out in the local municipalities implementing zoning bylaw. Section 16.3.2.15 of the county official plan states that it shall be permissible for the consent granting authority to approve a consent application conditional upon the approval of a zoning bylaw amendment and subsequent coming into force of such amendment where one is required to establish zoning bylaw conformity for cases where such amendment would be in conformity with the policies of the applicable official plan document. As the subject property is within the Listowel ward, the policies of the Listowel ward official plan also apply. Section 554 of the Listowel ward OP states that residential development shall be encouraged to locate as infilling and shall be encouraged to locate in areas which will be compatible with adjacent existing and proposed development. Section 555 of the Listowel ward OP contains specific policies to be applied to proposals that involve semi-detached dwellings. stating that such development shall generally occur through the process of infilling, among other processes where such development would generally be in keeping with the attributes of the neighborhood in terms of building type, building form, spatial separation, lot size, shape, design, and character. When evaluating neighborhood attributes, regard shall also be given to lot fabric and built form. In cases where one or more of the existing zone provisions are not met, an amendment or minor variance to the zone provision shall be considered to permit the proposed development. This section also states that semi-detached dwellings, such as duplex dwellings, shall be encouraged to be developed in groups or clusters rather than in scattered form. It should be noted that the proposed development on this site would not qualify as a duplex dwelling as per the zoning provisions. Section 8.4.1 of the zoning bylaw requires minimum lot area of 278 square meters for interior lots and 325 square meters for corner lots for one unit of a semi-detached dwelling on one lot within the R4 zone, being the zone that the subject property is currently found to be within. Section 8.4.2 of the bylaw requires that minimum frontage be 9 meters for interior lots and 10.5 meters for corner lots. Reading from our comments, the proposed consent application would create new lots for residential development within the Listowel ward, having access to full municipal services while requiring some relief from existing zoning provisions. With regard to zoning, relief would be required to recognize a reduced minimum lot area for both the severed and retained lots, as well as a reduced minimum lot frontage for the severed lot being an interior lot. The proposed lot area for the severed lot of 211.1 square meters represents approximately 24% reduction from what is otherwise required, being 278 square meters for one unit of a semi-detached dwelling on one lot, while the proposed lot area for the retained lot, being a corner lot of 309.5 square meters, represents approximately 5% reduction from what is otherwise required in the R4 zone for this same type of development. All other provisions of the local zoning bylaw would be met through the proposal, including rear yard setbacks from proposed new building envelopes. Section 16.3.2.15 of the county official plan again states that it shall be permissible for the consent granting authority to approve a consent application conditional upon approval of a zoning bylaw amendment for cases where such amendment would be in conformity with the policies of the applicable official plan document. Our interpretation demonstrates that the development proposal would be consistent with the local official plan document, such that the stated relief from local zoning is required. As such, we have recommended a condition of consent be included to address the noted zoning deficiencies. Furthermore, with respect to the PPS, the development proposal would result in a more efficient use of land and resources versus the form of development currently situated on the, or formerly situated on the existing lot, being a single detached dwelling. Development of the subject property in the manner proposed by the applicants represents a form of orderly and logical growth that would more efficiently leverage existing municipal services in the area. The proposed application has been found to be consistent with the PPS as well as the county and local official plans. Notice of public meeting was given in accordance with the Planning Act as well as posting to the County of Perth official website on June the 5th, 2020. As of the time of writing of our report, the County Planning Office received response from the municipality of North Perth dated March 19th, 2020. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth recommended to the Land Division Committee that the application for consent be approved, subject to 5 conditions that were detailed in our planning report to local council dated on March 16th, 2020. Since that, I would also like to mention that we are also in receipt of correspondence dated June 23rd, 2020 from Hydro One Networks, which came in after our report had been published, stating that they have no concerns with the application for consent. That is the balance of the comments that we have received. Planning staff are recommending that the application for consent B0920 be approved. subject to the 8 conditions that are detailed in our planning report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that members of the committee may have.
Okay, thank you, David. Mr. Patterson, do you have anything further to add at this time? Anything further, Mr. Patterson? Oh,
Oh,
there
Thank
we
you,
go.
Chair McKenzie. Nothing further to note to David's staff report, but would just like to note for your reference that North Perth Council approved the zoning for this property on June 22nd. So the zoning is in place and now subject to the appeal period.
Okay.
But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them for the committee members.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions with regards to this application? If not, then I would entertain a motion accepting staff's report and with the 8 conditions that are listed there. We have a mover and seconder. Moved by Jim, seconded by Matt. Any further discussion? Okay, David, I'll let you take the vote.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so that motion is carried. The Land Division Committee's decisions are subject to an appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. County staff have 15 days in which to issue the notice of committee's decision, with a 20-day appeal period following from the date of issuance of the notice. If no appeals are received during the 20-day appeal period, then the committee's decision is final. I want to thank you for attending, and you may leave if you wish, or you can continue to observe the rest of the meeting. So thank you very much. The next application is for consent to sever B10 2020 by Stephen Dolson, Karen Galbraith, and JADSSD Incorporated. And I will ask Dave to give us his report on that particular application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Following application for consent, application B1020 concerns property described as part of lots 19 and 20 in concession 5 of the Alma Ward, Municipality of North Perth, with municipal address of 7582 Road 158. The owners of the subject property have applied for consent to sever an existing farm dwelling which has been deemed surplus to the needs of consolidated farm operation. The severed lot containing the surplus farm dwelling would have approximately 55.8 meters or 183 feet of frontage along Road 158 and would have a lot area of approximately 0.33 hectares or 0.82 acres. The proposed severed lot contains an existing single detached dwelling as well as a shed where a portion of the shed is proposed to be demolished. The proposed retained farm lot would have a broken lot frontage of approximately 295 meters or 968 feet along Road 158 and would have an area of approximately 40 hectares or 98.84 acres. The proposed retained lot contains farmland, a municipal drain, a shed, and a barn, with the barn proposed to be demolished. In our staff review, staff have reviewed the application for consent with regard to section 5631 of the County of Perth official plan, which governs the severance of surplus farm dwellings within the County of Perth, and have found that the application meets the requirements contained under this policy. And we have no concerns with respect to any of the 9 criteria not being met through this application for consent. Notice of public meeting was provided in accordance with the Planning Act, as well as posting to the County of Perth website on June 5th, 2020. As of the writing of our report, the County Planning Office received response from the Municipality of North Perth dated March 19th, 2020, stating that the application, recommending that the application be approved subject to 7 conditions that were outlined in our staff report dated March 16th, 2020. Subsequent to those comments, we also received comments which were not noted in our report, but previously received during the previous March circulation period. March 11th, 2020, we received response from Hydro One Networks stating that they had no concerns with the application for consent. And on March 17th, 2020, Planning Office received comments from Bell Canada, similarly stating that Bell Canada had no concerns with the application for consent. That is the balance of the comments that we received. County staff are recommending that Land Division Committee approve the application for consent subject to the 10 conditions that are detailed in our report. Of particular note to the committee and specific to this consent, as we may have noted in our report, conditions 9 and 10. Condition 9 being confirmation being received that the existing barn has been removed along with all electrical connections. And as mentioned previously in our report, condition 10 pertains to partial removal of an existing shed that would be bisected by the new property boundary. So that is the summary of our report and comments received. I'd be happy to answer any questions that committee may have.
Okay, thanks, David. You did make a comment in your report there about conditions, and you had mentioned 9 when you were reading it, but there are 10.
There are 10.
Yeah, and you corrected that at the end.
My apologies.
I don't see anybody with regards to applicants or an agent involved in this, so I take it that there's nobody else present for this particular application. So I will open it up then if any committee members have a question. Matt?
Just a comment. I drove by yesterday and the barn has actually been demolished.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Anybody else? Okay, if not, I would entertain a mover and seconder to accept this staff recommendation with those 10 conditions. Matt moves, Rhonda seconds. Okay, David, I'll turn it over to you to take the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Agates, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, so that severance has been approved. The Land Division Committee's decision is subject to an appeal by the local planning appeal tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. County staff have 15 days in which to issue the notice of committee's decision with a 20-day appeal period following from the date of issuance of the notice. If no appeals are received during the 20-day period, then the committee's decision is final. All right, we could probably bring Sally back in now again. No,
She disconnected. Oh, she disconnected.
oh, she disconnected, did she? Okay. Yeah, we'll let her know that she can come back in again. So moving on, the next item then under reports is new pending and final approved and withdrawn applications. So David, you're going to do that one, I guess? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for committee's information, we have our report on new pending, final approved and withdrawn applications as and dated today's date, June 29th, 2020. As members may notice, this report is quite a bit lengthier than it normally would be given our hiatus due to the pandemic restrictions. So I'm noting for committee's information that we have a list of 11 new applications noted in the report, some of which will be heard at the July 27th meeting. We also have a collection of applications pending further information. There's 7 noted there. I will note for committee's information that point 5 under pending applications, there's a collection of 5 applications for Durasol Materials Limited. We have indication from the applicants that they are moving towards withdrawing their applications for consent. But at the time of publication, we left them under pending. We're still awaiting confirmation of withdrawal for those applications, as the proponents in that case were inclining towards filing an application for plan of subdivision in place of carrying forward with their consent. So you may see that one pop up in a later report at our next meeting under a different heading. And then also under final approved, we had a number of final approved applications, 18 in total, where a certificate of official was issued since our last meeting on March 2nd. That is the balance of the contents of our report. And just one last thing, I will note that moving forward, as committee may be aware, County Council recently approved a bylaw that allows for delegated approval authority for our manager of planning with respect to undisputed consents. Moving forward, this report that we normally have under section 6.1 of the agenda, it will contain an additional subcategory that will account for any applications approved through delegated authority. So you will see some changes to the report moving forward with that additional section. So that's the report as it is, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that members may have.
Okay. Thanks, David. Any questions from committee members? No? Okay. All right. Any correspondence at this time?
Not at this
None.
time.
Any other business?
Oh, you skipped
Did I
number
skip
8.
one?
Number 8.
Number 8. Oh, appeals. Sorry. Oh, they're good ones to skip.
Yeah, well, actually.
Go ahead, David.
Through the chair, just for committee's information, it isn't captured in our agenda today, but an appeal has been received by the county for application for consent B6719.
We need a motion on the.
Oh, we need
To accept the report? Okay,
My
sorry.
apologies.
Yep, no, that's my fault.
We'll do that.
So we do need a motion to accept the new pending final approved and withdrawn applications, 6.1 in the agenda. So moved by Jim. We have a seconder for that. Matt, thank you. I'll let you take the vote on that then, David. Sorry.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Good. Well, the chair's always allowed one mistake a day, isn't it? So that's my one for today, I hope. So there's no correspondence. David, you have an appeal or information on an appeal.
Yeah. So this is purely for committee's information. It wasn't captured on our agenda because of the timing of when we received notification, but there has been an appeal received by the county for application B6719 for application for consent that was filed in the town of Mitchell. So we will have more information moving forward that we could share with the committee at a future meeting. So I just thought I'd highlight that as something that came in recently that wasn't captured on our agenda.
Okay, thank you, David.
Can you tell us whose property that is? The numbers don't mean anything to me.
Right, through the chair, for member Eggets, the name that I recall being associated with that file was Sylvestrin.
Okay.
It was filed by MTE on behalf of the Sylvestrin family.
Which is Steve Anderson's.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, any other business? Nothing from committee members?
Hey, Walter?
Yes.
Or David? So that, we've got an appeal on that one now, so I take it that was filed within the proper time limits? Because that's from way back in 19.
That's from
That's quite a while ago.
That's
Yeah.
March, I believe.
So through the chair, member Aitchison, it's a very good question. That the notice of decision for that application was issued some time ago. The appeal technically was received well past the 20 days, but the notice of decision for that application was issued during an interim period where temporary changes were made to the Planning Act under the Emergencies Act. So there are a collection of applications that the county, consent applications that the county has to reissue notices of decision for. And this is one of those. That hasn't happened yet. We're planning to get those out very soon. But essentially for this application, the clock was essentially reset. So the text in the amendments to the Planning Act that were done through the Emergencies Act basically said that any notices of decision that were issued between date A and date B, I can't remember the exact dates, but it was a date in February and a date in March, I believe. Any notice of decision that were issued during that period were deemed not to be issued. So in effect, they legally don't exist. So we're sorting out the matter of the appeal, but basically the 20-day appeal period has to be reset for this application as well as a few others that were issued during that interim period that some matters of the Planning Act were suspended for.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we don't have a closed session, I don't think. So no closed session. So the next meeting is July the 27th. Do we want to adjust the time? Like it's 9:30, but we do have quite a few applications there.
Well, we won't have any more than what we had today.
Okay, all right, okay, all right, so we should be good. So 9:30 should be fine for a start time again. Whether it's Zoom or whether it's in person, to be determined. Okay, motion to adjourn then if there's nothing else. Moved by Jim, seconded by Rhonda. And I guess you take the vote on that one.
Member Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Duncan, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Member Eggets, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.